So Kumeshnee, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Thanks, Nick. Oh, sorry.
Yes, tell us.
Sorry, I was.
No problem.
Hi, Nick. Really nice to be chatting with you today. I grew up in Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal. I think most people know it as the Sleepy Hollow. But that's my hometown, and that's where all my people live, my parents and my extended family. So it's very close to my heart.
And tell us, Kumeshnee, what was your dream career when you grew up?
So I grew up with my grandmother. I lived with my grandparents for many years until I was about 13. And I used to always massage her legs and massage her hands. And we always talked about me being a physiotherapist. So that's how it had come about, because everyone used to say, oh, you've got such great, strong massage hands. And then, so that's how it started. And I kept thinking, oh, yes, I think that's a good career to go into, because I'm just naturally good at massaging people. Not really knowing exactly what physiotherapy was at that point when I was quite young. So that was my dream as I was growing up, right up until I finished matric, in fact.
And tell us, Kumeshnee, where did you start your career?
So, interestingly enough, I did start it in a massage. I was going to go to university. My plan was to go to university and study physiotherapy. But we ran into like financial challenges. My family, we weren't really well off, and it was quite challenging to pay for university fees as well as accommodation fees. So I decided to do a diploma course in sports therapy, and then added on aromatherapy to it. And my first job was actually in my own business when I was 19. I had completed a year of aromatherapy and sports therapy massage, and I joined two friends who had just completed their beauty therapy diplomas, and we started a business called Maison de Santé, and Maison de Santé means house of health, and I was the resident therapist, massage therapist. So that's where I started. That was in Pietermaritzburg. And during those 2 years that I was with the business, actually it was about a year and a half, I also worked with the Pietermaritzburg Fire Department, as well as the local squash team. So those were the areas that I had, worked in my initial days of my career. And then subsequent to that, I worked at the college I had studied at. I was employed to do some lecturing at the college, aromatherapy practicals, as well as anatomy and physiology. And then I ran the health and beauty clinic at the college as well. So that's where I started.
So how did you go into academia?
So that's a very, very good question, because I am a dreamer, but I'm also very realistic about how life has its twists and turns. And from where I started to where I am today, there were multiple twists and turns. So after starting the career in health and beauty, I still felt that I needed to go to university, and I really, really wanted to go to university. And that opportunity came along just after I turned 21, and my dad had he got retrenched from the company that he was working at, and he knew my desire to go to university, and he used his pension money to give me that opportunity for my first year of varsity. And I decided to study occupational therapy. And I really enjoyed my occupational therapy degree, and that moved me into being a clinician, a clinical therapist. And I continued to work as a clinical therapist for about 6 years. And I ended my career in clinical OT as a neurotherapist. So I worked at the Western Cape Rehab Center in neurology, and I absolutely loved the space. But during that time, I was a senior therapist, and I used to supervise occupational therapy students from the 3 big universities in Cape Town. And I developed a love for teaching. And I mean, I guess, my love for teaching had developed already when I was working at the college that I studied health and beauty at. But it just became more and more cemented during my time working as an occupational therapist. I really enjoyed seeing students thrive and moving from, where they were at with their knowledge to actually just improving and becoming more confident with their knowledge set, and then being able to treat patients confidently. So that's where the interest in education started. But it was actually a few years after that that I had done my master's at UCT. And it was during that time that I had some interaction with the executive development or the executive education department at UCT. And having studied at the business school and having interacted with exec ed, I became quite familiar with the business model for exec ed. In fact, my MBA syndicate group and I did our final project, which was a company analysis on the executive department at the business school. And we contributed to the process that was happening at the moment. And there was a transitioning of the customized academic learning and the exec ed department. And our project actually contributed to helping them amalgamate those departments. And then, a year after finishing the MBA, I was invited back to the school to do some consulting work. And I guess the rest is history, as they say, because I went back as a consultant and then ended up joining the exec ed team in a senior leadership position. And a year later, I was leading the team from the helm, I guess. So yeah, that's how I moved into academia.
And tell us, GSB recently won a very prestigious award, I believe a global award. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Absolutely. I am so incredibly proud of this award. So it's specifically related to executive education. And there's an accrediting body. It's called the European Foundation for Management Development. They are the accreditors of the EQUIS. They provide EQUIS accreditation. It's quite a prestigious European accreditation for our business school. And annually for exec ed, there's an Excellence in Practice Award. And what this means is that business schools from around the world contribute to this case study competition. And the way it works is that we submit a case that we have, it's actually a program that's been designed for a corporate client, and we present this case to show how we've partnered with the client, how we've co-created a program that was going to meet the return on investment and return on value for the client, and meet specific strategic objectives of the business by developing skills of their employees. And we had been working with Standard Bank for many years, and we had developed a masterclass for them. And it was my vision from the very first time I went to an EFMD exec ed conference, which was the first time was in 2014. I had experienced this Excellence in Practice Awards and watched different business schools, the best in the world actually, present their gold awards or their silver awards. And at that point, I had said to myself, I think we're doing amazing work at the GSB. We need to actually enter this competition. And then eventually, last year, at the beginning of last year, I had the capacity, and we were at the right time in our relationship with Standard Bank and this particular course, which we had run for about 20 iterations at that point. So we had enough data to write up a case study and show the impact of this course within the business and within the corporate investment banking space. And we did exactly that. We put together this case study, and all I wanted to do was enter the competition. I thought, if I can have the GSB's name amongst all those best, global schools, that would be such a win for me. And then, to win the award, the gold award for the professional development category, it just surpassed my expectations. So that was a massive feather in our caps. We are the first business school in Africa to have won this gold award, and I think it really it's a testimony to the great work that has been done on this continent, and the great partnerships that South African as a South African business school we've created with our corporate partners. So thanks for asking about it, because I'm really, really proud of that achievement.
And Kumeshnee, looking back at your early days, who inspired you?
Oh, I've had so many different people that have inspired me, Nick. But I'd say the first person is my grandfather. My grandfather played a really pivotal role in my life. And growing up with both my grandparents from the time I was very young, I think I had a very different upbringing to my sister. And my grandfather was someone that was really, truly authentic. What you saw is what you got. And he spoke his truth, and he was incredibly connected to people. He had friends from different walks of life. He always taught me about, being true to who I am. And I watched him work incredibly hard for his family, and also just to keep the grandchildren inspired and to keep us motivated. He really had, I would say, a heart of gold, where family was really important to him. And but he was also, even though he didn't have a tertiary education, and he hadn't completed school, but he was someone that constantly inspired me to do better, be better as a human being. So that was the first person. And then my dad, and I think my dad has always been someone that has had my back, and he continues to have my back. And he's played a very important role, I think, for the sacrifices he's made so that I could go to university and actually have that opportunity. It means a hell of a lot to me. And of course, the two very important women in my life is my grandmother and my mother. And all of them, they nurtured me so that I could be the best at whatever I set out to doing. So those are the people that really, really inspired me. And they weren't people that had big academic careers or big title jobs. They were just good, wholesome people that that were true to themselves, and they helped me see how important it is to be a good person in the world. Yeah.
Tell us, Kumeshnee, what is driving you today?
Wow. So many things. One of the things that's driving me today is that being part of a business school that's ranked really, really highly amongst our peers and globally, I'm inspired to continue to develop leaders for this continent, for our country. I'm particularly interested in the development of women. And I have been, I have been on the side where I have watched people grow and develop into people that have into leaders that have inspired other people, who have changed businesses to generate more value for their stakeholders. People who are entrepreneurs that have gone into the world and have done amazing work and connected people. And so for me, it's about staying in a space and driving the agenda on good values-based leadership. I'm driven by that. And I think also to have impact in the world, and not to have impact in a way that my name is up in lights. No, that doesn't interest me that much. It's actually, what interests me is that I can help other people on their journey towards being good leaders. So that's really what is driving me today.
And Kumeshnee, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Oh, it's, I think right now, with this pandemic that we've all been facing, for the many, many months that it has been going on for, I think during this time, I have seen many leaders rise to the challenge, the uncertainty, the ambiguity of the situation. And those leaders for me have been leaders that have and show empathy. Those leaders are the ones that are really connected to their people and connected to their customers. And those leaders are the ones that are visionaries and that can actually see through the chaos and still create some calm for their teams, so that they can still do what they can do to keep their businesses going. I think the future of leadership, it's no more autocratic leadership and you do as I tell you to do. The future of leadership is a collaborative leadership style. It's a dispersive leadership style. It's a servant leadership style. And I think that, I know I've learned in my journey as a leader that I do not have all the answers. I am far from having, answers to every single thing that I need to know. But what I've learned to do is, firstly, be very acutely aware of that. And secondly, surround myself with people that have answers, or good people that I can think with and use as a sounding board, and they use me as a sounding board. So I lean heavily on collaborative leadership and dispersive leadership. And for me, I think the future of leadership also means that as a leader, we should be removing obstacles from the paths of our teams, allowing people to rise and take up their places, in their full potential, as to get to their heights of where they can be in their careers and as human beings. And also, I think leaders have to remember that change is inevitable. We have to be leaders that can actually keep the ship going even during turbulent times. And in order to do that, you have to be very emotionally intelligent. I think spiritually intelligent, and I don't mean from a faith perspective, but connected to the world, connected to people. And I think there's a need for leaders to also be very, very physically in tuned to themselves, know how to manage their energy, and know how to help their teams to manage their energy, so that they can bring their best selves to work.
And Kumeshnee, looking back over your own journey, your own leadership journey, what would you say are the qualities that are most important for building future leaders?
So for, as how I've built future leaders, or?
No, what you've learned from your own leadership.
What I've learned, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've learned that you have to understand that each person on a team is different. Each person has different goals. Each person has different aspirations. And what I've learned is that, for me, I need to be in touch with my team very closely so that I can understand what it is that I can do to support them to be the best they can be. And what I've learned in my journey as being an employee is that, and what's guided me as a leader, is support from my leadership team, from the director of the business school. I think, the first person that, appointed me was the director of exec ed, but in that selection committee was the director of the business school. And he really, really helped me build my confidence. He helped me believe in myself because he believed in me. And he really, really made it clear to me whenever he had the opportunity that he believed in me, and he gave me opportunities to prove myself, I guess to myself, but also to the rest of the school and the exec ed team. And he often gave me opportunities which I thought were bigger than what I had, the skills that I had. And he would say to me, well, you know what, here's an opportunity to develop yourself. And what do you need to be able to develop yourself to this? So I think future leaders need to be nurtured. They need to be understood. They need to be given the opportunities to learn, to grow, to ask questions, to be disruptors. I think, in this time when we are seeing so much of disruption related to 4IR, what I'm seeing is that the younger generation, the digital natives, as we call them, they are the ones that are going to have amazing solutions for us in the future. And we have to think about, all of us that have gone through, the third industrial revolution, and we're not actually, some of us aren't digital natives, we're digital immigrants, but we are the leaders of these businesses right now. We have to really change our mindsets so that we can allow new thinking in spaces. And it's going to be really important to create that fertile ground for thinking, for creation, for disruption. It will be very important for the senior leaders and executives to create space for that, so that people can feel like they're supported to grow and bring their best selves to work and contribute meaningfully in the workspace.
And Kumeshnee, when it comes to social media, what is your advice for upcoming leaders? How should they handle and navigate social media to build their own leadership brand?
This is a really, really interesting question for me, Nick, because I've really grappled with this, I must say. And I think that was one of the reasons why I partnered with you to help me with my LinkedIn profile, to make it as appealing to someone that was going to look at my profile and understand who I am and what it is the value that I add to the business school. So, and I've played around with Twitter and with Facebook and now more recently Instagram. But I'd say for me, the two tools that I use most for my personal brand is Twitter and LinkedIn. I am absolutely cautious about how I use those two tools. I am very cautious about how I want to present myself on those platforms. As much as I want to be seen as completely authentic and real and, sharing who I am on those platforms, I think it's also really important to be aware of your audience that you want to attract, the messaging you want to send out, what are your expectations from your followers, and how do you want to influence them? So those are the things that have always been on top of mind for me. It's not so much about the likes. It's actually about being able to influence the way people are thinking, influence the way they are reflecting on their own journeys and their career journeys and their leadership journeys, but also to share information that's going to help people to be better at who they are and what they want to do. So social media helps me in that way. And I think that we need to be congruent in what we put on social media and how we behave. Because that's very important. You can't have two different personas. You have to have, this is who I am, and what you're going to see when you meet me is exactly the same person that you are going to interact with, via my social media platforms.
And Kumeshnee, what is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What would be the biggest challenges that they can expect to encounter in their career?
Wow. I think that future leaders coming into the workspace are going to have to always remember that there's a lot of uncertainty that we are needing to deal with. And the sooner the future leaders learn how to be agile and be more resilient, I think that's going to put them in good stead for the rest of their careers. I think the challenges that come with rapid change, and I mean right now we're going through that process where we have incredible amount of changes that we're having to deal with, and how we navigate COVID-19 for our organizations. I am seeing a lot of younger people in our organization coming up with great solutions. So they need to know that there will be challenges, and they will have to actually step up to the plate, find their voices, and be bold. If you want to be seen as an influencer and be chosen for leadership roles, you have to actually be bold and own your opinion in a responsible way. I think be responsible. The other thing is, with the fast pace of work that we have found ourselves in, it's very easy to get excited and caught up and actually lose sight of creating some balance or integration of work and life. I really think that that's been a massive challenge in my life, about creating that integration of work and life balance, because I have found myself being challenged by burnout, being challenged by illnesses, and as a leader, as a developing leader, you need to know that you need to still take care of yourself. I think it's absolutely vital that we keep things in balance, and at the most important person in this, in a leadership in this role is you. You have to actually take care of yourself, take care of your families, and then also, this is part of who you are. So, always remember that that's to keep that balance. I think we're also going to be experiencing rapid disruptions in every single industry. And I think, right now we're seeing that. We're having to think of new ways of being, new ways of doing things, new ways of interacting. And I think that those new ways are going to pose lots of challenges to all of us, but also lots of opportunities. So the way I view life at the moment, right now, today, having all the meetings I've had this morning about our way forward, in this space where COVID-19 is just, decimating so many businesses, I've had to really just keep things in perspective. What are the things that I have control of? And what are the things I don't have control of? And I think that's important for leaders to really keep sight of. And the things that you have control of, that's where you can really make your mark. And the things you don't have control of, keep your eyes on it, because you want to know what is coming at you, and you want to be able to pivot in order to maybe avoid it or deal with it when it does come your way.
So Kumeshnee, what are some of the new skills that you would advise future leaders to learn?
Oh, absolutely. That's an incredible question, because we're finding ourselves in this 4IR space that, our skill sets that we have currently is not always going to support us in the future. So as a leader, I think that it is incredibly important to hone what we used to call soft skills, which now I think are hard skills. Being a creative leader. So creativity is very important. Being curious is really, really important. Being able to be agile, develop agility skills. Being able to, and those are just some of the softer skills. But what's important, I think, from a hard skills perspective, going into this technologically disruptive space, I think skills that's related to this space is understanding data analysis, understanding digital disruption. What does it mean for industries? Data analytics is really important. Being able to collaborate with others is really, really important. I think being able to, navigate the different, I guess it's a flexibility and agility. I think that's something that is really important. And there are loads of other skills, but I think being technologically savvy, I think, is going to take us a long way. And I mean, just to give you an example, during this last 6 weeks, in fact, today is my last day, I have been doing a digital transformation strategy course. And our IT team will tell you that I lack in the tech savvy area. And I mean, I can do really well, but there are some things that I'm just not good at. And having seen how rapidly our environments are changing, and the business school environment particularly is changing, I decided to do this digital transformation strategy course because it's now helped me to understand how to transform our organization, how to transform exec ed, how to understand data analytics and data management, how to understand changing cultures so that we can actually transform as a whole, as an organization. And what are the drivers of that? So I think the key thing is that as we progress in our careers, we will find that we will need new skills. Our skills will not serve us for the rest of our lifetimes. So for me, it's very important that be aware of what's going on in your industry, be aware of what's going on in the world, be aware of where you want to go to next in your career, and then actually build those skills so that you can actually enter into those spaces confidently and with the right skill set.
And Kumeshnee, can you tell us, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Oh, I have a beautiful story. So my mentees are generally women. And I always find that they move from a mentee-mentor relationship into a friendship, into a mutual mentorship relationship as well. And one of my mentees is a leadership trainer, and she's a facilitator. And she was I wouldn't say she was at the beginning of her career, but she was, entering into doing more work in the corporate space. And, she wanted some guidance into how best to enter the spaces. She also wanted to understand how she could create a brand for herself in the industry. And I remember one conversation that we had where she said, I just want to test an idea. I want to bring a group of women into a space, and I want to run a half-day workshop, and I want to talk about curiosity and leadership and being a woman and being curious as a leader. And we had a lengthy conversation, and generally our conversations are over brunch. And we were having a delicious brunch, and I said, okay, well then let's do it, you know? And she said to me, well, I just had the thought, you know, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while, but I want to do this. So I said, okay, well, you know what? If you set it up, I will be the first person that signs up. And she was completely blown away. And she was like, are you serious? I mean, you don't have to come. And I'm like, yes, I will be there, and I will bring people with me. So she actually did it. And a month or two later, actually it was 2 months later, we all went to this leadership workshop. And there were probably about 10 women that joined the workshop, and everyone had such incredible feedback for her. And my mentee was just so super blown away by the response. But it also gave her the impetus to actually just do something that she really, really wanted to do. And from that workshop, she's built content for several other workshops. She's now working, she's got an incredible business working with corporates and working specifically with young leaders that have entered into the workspaces and on graduate programs. So that's the one success story. And with the same mentee, she was chatting with me about academic programs, and she really felt that she needed to do a master's program. And we unpacked lots of things that she wanted to do. And we started talking about the MPhil program, and she had said to me, I really want to do this. And we talked about it twice. And then I just put her in contact. I said, okay, well, right, if you're serious about this, this is what I'm going to do. Put you in contact with the admissions officer, have a conversation, put you in contact with the person, the academic course convener who runs the program, have a conversation, and then take it from there. And the reason why and currently she is finishing her dissertation for her MPhil program. So that's another huge success story. And I think that's her success story, not my success story. Because I think as a mentor, it's really important to not only just share what you've learned in your life, but also to open doors for your mentees. And that's what I think of as sponsorship. You really have to be a sponsor for the people that, that you mentor. And for me, it's always about support and creating space and increasing their network as well, so that they can actually build their business and their leadership skills. So that's her success story, actually.
Right. And last but not least, Kumeshnee, are there any role models of leadership that you would advise future leaders should learn from?
Wow, I love this question. I think firstly, I'm going to say something that's so generic, but I think it's important. It depends on where you are at in your life and what you are seeking in your life. That's where you align with role models. And I think that's for me, as I was growing through my leadership journey, and still am, I look for different people at different times in my life. But right now, I mean, some of the women leaders in the world have just been taking my breath away in terms of how they have been leading, particularly during this time of crisis. And Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is one of those women for me. She is incredibly a strong leader. She's empathetic, but she's also really good at policy and decision making. So a beautiful combination. So I'm following her at the moment, and I'm really watching her moves, because I think she's a true epitome of a leader for today, how we need to lead. The previous US President, Barack Obama, and I know that there are people that like him and dislike him, but I think for him, he has really been authentic in the way he's led. And then also just the way he is about being a father, about being a husband, about being a supporter of women. And it's really, I think, for me right now, I think we need more men who support women, especially because we are not seeing that, the percentage of women in executive roles and on boards increase as rapidly as I'd like to see it. And I think globally we'd like to see that.
Mhm.
I think role models in South Africa, I think, just our current Springbok captain. I mean, he's been a superb role model, not just on the sports field, but I think just as a person that has come through immense struggles in his life and has shown us how if you are true to who you are and you work hard and you stick to your dreams, you can achieve those bold, audacious goals that we set out for ourselves. There are so many different leaders that I could list, but we'll be here all afternoon. But
Yeah.
those are the people that stand out for me right now. People that I look at and I learn from, and they are actually interacting in different spaces. But I think they are influences, and they are people that give other people hope. And I think that's what's important.
Absolutely. So, Kumeshnee, how can our listeners connect with you, and where should they follow you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Kumeshnee West. I also I am on Twitter, and that is at Kumesh West, my Twitter handle. And then you can find me on the GSB website. I'm listed under the senior management team, and you can also connect with me via email, and my email address is kumewest@gsb.uct.ac.za. But you could also connect with me on the road if you are a cyclist, because I am a very, very, I have a deep love for cycling, and it's
Right.
grown over the years. So yeah, that's where
Well,
we can connect with each other.
well, Kumeshnee, thank you so much for making time to share your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and reminding us that women in particular play an ever more important role in this new world and the new economy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share